and a prayer for our nation. Others said they stood there at the front of the casket and made a promise to do better. And then others said they made a pledge to actually get involved in the fight against racism. So some may see this service and in his burial as the end of this story, but really it's just the beginning. Back to you.
Yes, Deborah, we saw more than 6,000 people yesterday entered the sanctuary, and we saw them range in their expressions from being prayerful to at times raising their fist in solidarity for now what has become a movement after George Floyd's death. Chris Costa now continues our coverage leading up to Floyd's funeral. Time now to check in with him. Chris?
Well, Mia, we actually just spoke to Bishop James Dixon here right in front of the church moments ago. He said that the family is feeling distraught, and despite all the support, they're still feeling that same grief that any of us would feel when we lose a loved one, and that permanence that comes with that. He also likened the city of Houston to Montgomery, Alabama, in its role in the civil rights movement. And you can see this large crowd of people starting to gather here outside the church. Actually, a moment ago, we're holding a short prayer as they all kind of gathered here. We know that County Judge Lena Hidalgo is expected to be at the funeral today. She announced that today will be proclaimed George Floyd Day in Harris County, and we're also expecting Mayor Sylvester Turner to be here as well. And we also noticed there is a small group of some activists, Moms Demand Action, that says they're planning to gather here in hopes of supporting the family. They said that they intend to kind of form a ring around the church. And the gun violence issue that they're trying to bring attention to today has to do with any type of gun violence, even if it's on the part of a police officer. So as we'd mentioned earlier, there are a lot of people here who are kind of trying to be onlookers, spectators of this private funeral. And I think you can see over there in the distance, we do have some members of the new Black Panther Party. I'm not sure if you can hear them. Pardon the language here because this is live TV, but it seems like there's some kind of interaction going on there between the new Black Panther Party and maybe some members of the media. It's unclear right now. We're going to kind of keep an eye and an ear on things. And hopefully, I know everybody here is hoping that things will remain peaceful today as they try to commemorate the life of George Floyd and realize exactly what his death is going to commemorate and mean going forward in America.
Chris Costa, thank you for reporting. We'll keep an eye on things as we get closer and closer to the service inside of the church. We mentioned earlier that George Floyd's casket will be placed on a horse-drawn carriage about a mile away from the cemetery after the service. Our Michelle Choi is along the route down in Pearland this morning. Good morning, Michelle.
Hey, good morning. A very large crowd is expected at this afternoon's funeral procession for George Floyd. Take a look at all the barricades that have been placed here along Cullen Boulevard, which is the procession route. Pearland police are asking people who come out here to stand behind these barricades, be ready to social distance, and prepare to stand in the heat for some time as they try and pay their final respects to Floyd. But as you mentioned, visitors will also get to witness a very special moment during the last mile of that procession when a horse-drawn carriage, take a look, will carry Floyd to his final resting place at Houston Memorial Garden Cemetery, where he'll be buried next to his mother. Now, the carriage will look very similar to the ones you're seeing on your screens right now. We're told the Vintage Horse Carriage Rides is the company that will be providing the service. Now, back out here live, we know that Houston police will be escorting Floyd's body from the church in Houston to here, guys, Silver Lake Church in Pearland, where his casket will be transferred from a hearse to that horse-drawn carriage. And I can tell you that carriage just arrived moments ago. It went into that parking lot in front of me here. And in our next 10, we'll, of course, get closer to it to take a look for ourselves at that very special moment. Len, back to you.
All right, Michelle, thank you. It will be a very powerful sight and an emotional moment. Former Vice President Joe Biden met with the Floyd family in Houston yesterday. He says it is hard to grieve with the world watching. He spoke with Nora O'Donnell of the CBS Evening News after he and his wife Jill had lunch with the Floyd family at a Houston restaurant. Biden says Floyd's daughter told him Floyd would change the world. Biden believes he will. Biden says what with dignity. And Mia, I know that the Floyd family, they have been to a memorial in Minneapolis, to one in North Carolina, and now they're in Houston. And the finality, as you know, of going to funerals of loved ones yourself, there's nothing more final than the actual burial day. It will be very, very difficult for the family today.
Very emotional for them, but yet it will be an opportunity for them to come together one final time to lift him up and celebrate him as a father, as a friend, as just a